Hello, and welcome to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. I'm Ryan Purvis, your host, supported by our producer Heather Bicknell. In this series, you'll hear stories and opinions from experts in the field, stories from the front lines, the problems they face and how they solved them, the areas they focused on from technology, people and processes, to the approaches they took that will help you to get to the grips with the digital workspace inner workings.
How are things with you?
They're good. Just busy week. So feeling the effects of that one.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah. Are you back in the UK?
We are back in the UK. We got back the 3rd of April. It was a very cold day, but it was lovely and sunny. And it was like coming into a museum. Our house was what it was like it was. It was like it wasn't really left, even though other people have been in and out and all the rest of it was quite weird. But the key things were working. The internet was working. The TVs were working. It's amazing how the technology, like Netflix and Amazon and Disney, just operates. The only thing was our heating. That for some reason had switched off. Now I controlled it all from remotely, in the sense that I turned it on the app and not thought about it again, because I set up like a schedule to automatically do it. And when we landed, about 5 in the morning. It was 0 degrees, but there was no wind, so it was fresh, but it was actually quite warm. I mean, it was actually quite shocked. But we got home and the house was about 10 degrees centigrade. So that's probably 20, 30 Fahrenheit or something ridiculous like that, even probably lower. So that was a bit funny, but thankfully hot water was working, and we went to our cousin's place, so he sorted us out with breakfast and bath and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been a week of clearing out the house, reorganizing things, throwing out a lot of stuff. Thankfully, no disasters otherwise, and we're back in the routine. It's like we never left. It's quite bizarre. 10 days later.
Yeah, well, that's a huge move, but sure, it's nice to be on the other side of it. How's the time change element going for you?
It's funny because when we were planning to leave, we originally looked to fly on the 2nd of April. 2nd of April, the 1st of April, then we became the 2nd of April. But that weekend before was the shift in daylight savings for the UK. So really for 1 week, we had a 1 hour time change difference, and then we flew back here, and then there was no time change. So it almost didn't make a difference to us too much. It's given me more time in the evenings. I actually hadn't realized how many evenings I was working till 7, 8 o'clock at night. That is now, 4, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, which is a bit more sociable. And these are the things you got to bring in, think about when you're working nomadic, is that you can easily become a worker in all the worst times of the day. So that's been quite nice to get into a normal thing. It's kind of messed up my mornings though, because I had quite a lot of free time to do things in the morning. So my first call, because of the time zones, would be 11:30 in the morning, which is when the UK came online, which would be 9:30 UK time. That's now 10:30 for me here, so I've had to shift gym around and all that kind of stuff. But it's actually been good. We're organized. We the other thing which I did, which I'm was very skeptical of to begin with, but this is again all done online before we got here, is instead of going to buy a car, I'm basically renting a car on a long lease. So it's a company called Kazoo, CAZOO, and which I only realized the other day is like a contraction for car zoo. But basically, you pick your car online, you pay for it on your credit card, you pay a 1 month deposit, and you book your time for it to arrive, and it arrives. And it's not a brand new car; it's a second-hand car, but that's fine for me. And you agree on a period of rental, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, which you take the max because it makes financial sense. And then if you don't like the car in the first 7 days, you give it back and get another one. And you just go pick off the website and you get another one. So we had a car for the first week, which we didn't like. So we sent that back. We've got a second car, all handled online. It's actually quite a nice, it's a mobile app and all that stuff. And then if we don't like the car anytime, we just pay a cancellation fee and ends the contract. So you're not sitting with a car that you can't sell if you want to get rid of it, which is one of the things that I didn't want to have, because that it didn't hurt us when we moved to South Africa, but I didn't want to have that situation in the future. So it works out really well, and we've got this car now. We really like it, and we've agreed a mileage per month, which is part of the fee. And if you go over that mileage, you pay a small fee on top to increase your mileage for that month, and that's it. And I'm really impressed with the idea. I think it's a great digital service.
Very interesting. I wonder how that compares to more traditional leasing, like through a dealership. Is it less expensive, or do you know how it's different?
So if I went and bought a car on a traditional lease, but it would also be a 3-year or 4-year or whatever lease, you'd have to put down a big deposit, which in this case I don't. In fact, my big deposit is spread across the term, which is great. The other thing is you can't get out of that lease. So what happens is when you're in that lease, you've got to basically see it out or buy it out. So if you want to end it early, and this actually happened to my cousin, he was trying to get rid of his car, and I forget how much time he had left, but it basically worked out to about £4,000 to get out of his lease. And he said, well, then it's fine. I'll just keep the car, until it gets to zero, and then I'll give it back. And he put the phone down, and literally an hour later, someone phoned him up saying, we'd like to buy your car from you. We'll pay out whatever's remaining on your lease. And he said, that's perfect. I don't want to make profit on it. I just want to just give the keys back with the car, and it's done. And they have a right of first refusal. Now that, for those guys to go and buy the car, they have to still make money on the car. So in that sense, there is a way to get out of your lease, but your problem is with a traditional lease, unless you can sell the car and make back what you owe, you end up having to pay in. Which is what I like about this thing, because if we keep this car for a year and then we decide to relocate, or we decide we don't like the car and our needs have changed, or we decide we want to get 2 cars, it's a very simple exit. It's £500 and I'm out. Whereas if we own the car, you'd have to sell the car, and then you've got to hope that it's thing. And these guys will handle all the stuff like the servicing and all that sort of thing, which most leases don't do either. Normally what happens with a lease is it's just a financial instrument where you go to a dealership, you buy the vehicle, and you agree your service plan with that brand, and the lease just pays them the money, and you're just paying the financial company every month to pay off that lump sum. Whereas this service is the full works. Any issue, I phone them, they come fetch the car, they fix it. They give me a courtesy car. That's all built in. All the insurances are covered. So it's a really good thing. And I reckon, and I'm saying this anecdotally because I actually haven't done the math, I'm probably saving 10-15% on the payments because I've done it this way. And I don't offload a whole lot of my cash into the deposit. Which was another big thing for me. So I'm very impressed with it as a digital service. And this is, I was having this debate back in South Africa where everyone owns multiple cars. I just said, cars are not assets. You never, unless you're buying like a really specialized, antique or like a Lamborghini. What do you call those things? What kind of cars are they? Like a very high echelon vehicle where the resale will be good because someone wants that car, high demand vehicle. anything you drive is just going to be worth nothing after 3 years or 5 years. So you just want to rent them, and that's how we've always done our purchases, is to rent them. So after 3 years, we give the car back, we get another one. And then you're normally sticking to a brand. So like if you go to, our last one was a Hyundai. If we went back now with a Hyundai, they'd give us a good deal to stay with the Hyundai brand. So we buy another Hyundai. Problem for us is that they made some changes to the bodywork. We just didn't like it. So, now you don't want to stick with that. But now if you go to another brand, at least this is how it works in the UK and South Africa, if you go to another brand, they won't give you as much for that vehicle. They might give you 90% of what the other guys would have given you. So now there's almost a cost of moving brands in some respects. So, and I don't know if you probably wouldn't be aware of this, but the UK, because of all the Brexit and issues with fuel and whatever it is, it's pushed up the price of secondhand cars, and also the chip shortage has delayed cars.
That's true here too.
Yeah, so when we were looking at cars from South Africa, we were thinking, geez, I'm not spending 20-30% more on a secondhand car, because it's a seller's market. So this rental service is perfect for me, because I don't feel like I'm in a losing deal. I feel like I'm in a winning situation, and the service has been pretty good. I mean, there are a couple of things that can improve, but it's all digital. The guys rock up with an iPad. They take a picture of you with the car. They take pictures of all the tires and the rims, and they show, and everything's on the website. You can see all the dents and scratches, and most of these cars are immaculate. I mean, this car that I got now has got one mark on it. It's got 30,000 miles on the clock. It's a 2018 car, and it's got one mark on it. That's almost brand new. The technology inside it is great. So I'm impressed. It's the way to go, especially for a big purchase.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. It's funny. So I have a 2019 hybrid, and because of all the shortages, it's apparently going for like what I bought it for. So that did make me think it would be a good time to sell it, because that's so unusual. As you pointed out, that usually they depreciate, but because of the shortages right now, hybrid cars in particular are in demand.
Well, we've wasted a lot of time the last couple of days driving around looking for fuel, because we both vehicles we've had are diesels, and for some reason that's the fuel type that has the most issues getting. So now we're looking at electric cars. But this is the nice thing: we can now take our time, do the research, go buy the car we want, cancel, and carry on. So yeah.
Well, have you visited the office yet, or do you plan to?
I did. I went last week Friday. It was an interesting experience. So because we only have one car, I had to rent a car, and that also was quite neat. That was through Enterprise. App was quite good. I booked the car. Went and collected it. Pretty much a paperless experience, which I always like. Drove out there. It's a very difficult place to get to. I'll be honest. I don't know why anyone put an office where they put it, but and there was no one there. It was in fact, when I got there, one person was leaving, and the entire office was empty. In fact, the whole office block was pretty much empty. So I still foresee people not wanting to go into the office, especially on a Friday. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I've been there, done that. In fact, I had a meeting with someone and actually met them at the airport, because that's where they were doing all their meetings, because they're traveling that night. So I just have to move upstairs.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah. So that's actually, sorry. As I talk about moving upstairs, I'll tell you a funny story. So, I think when we first started this, I had my setup at home, which had 2 screens and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. There's a funny bug with Apple, that you actually can't, for some reason, share your screen across 2 monitors. You can only extend onto one. So I've got these 2 screens that show exactly the same thing, and it's quite disconcerting, because you you sort of want to put one on the left, one on the right, but they're both showing exactly the same thing. And you can't turn your main screen off, which is on my laptop, for example, and use those two screens. You have to have always on the laptop, which is bizarre. So that's been the one frustrating thing about my working place. For some reason, Apple decided that you shouldn't be able to do that.
That's interesting. I don't think I have that problem, and I have a Mac with a external monitor.
Have you got two external monitors or just one?
Oh, just one. Yeah, I see.
So it works fine with one. So I thought it was my docking station, so I went and bought another docking station. That hasn't made a difference. And then I thought, well, let me have a dig around and see what's happening online. And there's about a year-long thread of people moaning about this issue. So yeah, fun and games. It's my first complaint on a Mac in a while.
Yeah, that's rare. No, but I mean, with particularly with remote work and having the multiple monitor setups at home, and I think some people potentially even still, bringing their own device, like working off of a home laptop and using a virtual desktop for work or however. Seems like an oversight to make that challenging.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen the latest from Windows, from Microsoft, at least with their Windows virtual desktop, where it's now going to be almost a hybrid, where you can run a localized version of your desktop and then you can still connect to the cloud as well when you're back online. I think that's going to be very interesting as a concept. But they could do it because they own the whole value chain, whereas other vendors like Citrix and VMware who've tried to do that, obviously don't. So that's I'm very keen to see how that works. I might, and then in that sense, look at a Windows machine again as a work machine.
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole video with Jeremy and Scott, but I did catch a little bit of it, and it is funny just seeing Windows 11 and then playing around with it. I'm like, I have a little bit of FOMO over here, not experiencing that operating system now, having moved on to a Mac. Yeah,
it's I'm playing with it at the moment because we're building out this infrastructure, and it's still clunky. It's amazing how clunky it is. In fact, if I look at any issue I have on my Apple product, it's a Windows product that causes the trouble. So they need to do a lot of work there. But then again, Apple's also done some funny things the last couple of weeks. So none of them are perfect. So you just got to find whatever works for you to get the job done.
Definitely. I don't know if you wanted to. Do you want to catch up at all on what's new in the digital employee experience space? I've seen the Dex packs and whatnot that you've been putting out.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So we met our deadline of launching them all by the end of the quarter. So now on the Lakeside customer gateway, which is the new name for the customer portal, our first 9 packs are there. And we've got another, I want to say 8 or 9 that are due to come out soon, all covering off better ways to answer key questions in the business. So we have a Green IT pack, we have a Windows 11 migration pack, we have a Proactive IT pack, and what these packs are doing is they are showing the data in a very specific use case in a simple way. So those who have used the product will know that we have a very rich, deep data set that we leverage. The challenge with that is trying to find the data sometimes to answer the question. So what we've been doing with the Dex packs is bringing that all together into a simple way. And they're looking quite good. We've done one for Google Workspace. We've done one for employee well-being. We're working on now a security one for vulnerabilities. And there's packs coming out now. We're going to probably do a couple a month to get them out. And they've got a landing page which has got the introductory information, a how-to document installation guide, a run-through video on what's in the pack, and they all leverage obviously the SysTrack platform. And we're doing quite a nice one now for executive insights, which I don't want to talk too much about because I think that is going to be officially released in a big thing. But yeah, it's exciting. We're seeing good adoption from customers, excitement from customers, which is always good. And I did show it to a few CIOs that I knew were ex-customers or current customers, and they positive comments around the packs. And some of them are not technical, so the more technical side of the product they didn't want to look at, but they wanted to look at the packs, and they liked what they got out of the packs. And they could say, the one said, I could definitely show this to an HR person who were looking at employee wellness, whereas I could never show them the original SysTrack stuff. And that's not because SysTrack's a bad product. It's just it's too technical for an HR person who's not a techie. So these are positive things. It's all looking good.
No, that's great. That sounds like you've packaged them up in a really consumable way, which is key, because that's always the challenge, right? It's in that space, I think the Lakeside has the edge on data collection and just having access to those insights, but the challenge is really making it consumable, documenting, easy to use, all of that. So I think that's great that you've kind of packaged it into a solutions focus to kind of make those use cases just easier to leverage for customers. So
yeah, awesome. Exactly.
What kind of things is it showing in the well-being one, just out of interest? What kind of things are being highlighted?
So we look at time people are working on the screen. So, it's very difficult to categorically say, someone that's worked 9 hours on the screen is an unhealthy worker. But what we are saying is if you see, long periods of screen time, to suggest breaks and that sort of thing. The other thing we're doing, which I think is a really neat thing, is we're working out whether someone needs a second screen or not. And we're doing that based on how much time they spend focused on the application, which is really cool. I think that's a really good. It's a common question I used to get, and it's a really good one that you got the data to work it out. I'm trying to think what the third thing is. I can't think what the third item is, but that's basically the main two. And obviously, because we're not tracking necessarily every device, we can't say if someone who's not at their desk 8 hours a day isn't working on their phone or doing some pen and paper work or something like that. So it's not completely the entire picture, but it's a good one, I think, into getting visibility in people's work habits. Oh, the other one is office versus remote. We can tell if someone's in the office a lot or remote. And we're looking at we use the health score, which is obviously quite a key indicator to determine if they're having a good experience or not, whether in the office or at home. And that's about giving the IT people insight into what kind of service they're offering to the end user. Because in the end, it's all about the employee experience and getting them into a state where they get the most productivity out of their day to do their work. The other one that's I think is going to be very interesting as we build it out is the Java one. We're doing one specifically for Java. So Java licensing, Java versioning. That's always a painful one for people rolling out software. So that's, I think, it's quite interesting. And then we're doing a new pack now for Microsoft 365. And that's going to tie into applications being used, performance of those applications. And I think we're doing some around licensing as well, recommended licensing. So that'll be quite cool. And we have an AVD one, which is working out the right sizing of VMs. And again, it's all about experience, end user experience. So yeah, that's it. There's some cool ones. Ones I'm very excited to get feedback from customers on. Some that I wish I had when I was a customer. So yeah, it's looking good.
Well, it's fun that you can come over and then build some of the things that you would have wanted to see. That's great insight to have, I think.
Well, that's it. That's it exactly. So as I was saying to someone yesterday, I used to moan about all these things. Now I've got to fix them. Otherwise, I can't moan about them anymore. So super. I think we can wrap up there if you don't mind. Thanks, Heather. Bye,
Ryan.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Heather Bicknell is our producer and editor. Thank you, Heather, for your hard work on this episode. Please subscribe to the series and rate us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter @the DWW Podcast. The show notes and transcripts will be available on the website www.digitalworkspace.works. Please also visit our website www.digitalworkspace.works and subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, if you found this episode useful, please share with your friends or colleagues.